Hello and welcome to another edition of the Sustainable Scoop. More and more consumers are trying out ways to live more sustainably, but what many are learning is that doing so is really not as easy as just going plastic free or becoming vegetarian. Can technology help clear the path for consumers to combine their good intentions with the broader need to affect meaningful change? One avenue is through an information sharing of real-time feedback on businesses that do and don't mirror the environmental stewardship values they seek. Today, I would like to welcome Leah Carr. She is one of the founders of a nonprofit organization that is working to provide the reviews many enlightened shoppers are seeking with the newly developed revolutionary app called FindGreen. FindGreen rates businesses based on their consumer-verified green business practices. Welcome, Leah.
It's great to be here. Thanks so much, Annabelle. Excited to talk about how we can create a better, more sustainable world.
Yes. So as an individual that thinks long and hard about consumption and waste reduction, I find it hard to deny the complexities I feel when making simple purchases in clothing stores, markets, and definitely ordering takeout. I'm guessing you and the members of your organization had similar experiences before launching the Find Green concept. Would you share what inspired the app and give us a brief overview of how the app works?
Yes, so Find Green was basically inspired by the realization that individual action isn't enough. I can bring my awesome reusable cup, I can bring my reusable bag to go shopping and so forth, and that really to affect change, we need to have everybody changing their practices. And the easiest way to do that would be for the business itself to change its practice. So they aren't giving out the plastic bags, and instead people start using reusable. So that was kind of one fundamental motivation. And then the other is a realization that our voices are very limited as individuals, and we need to collectively demonstrate to businesses that this is a behavior that people want. So Find Green is about empowering consumers to make sustainable choices, and then using our collective purchasing power to incentivize businesses to adopt more sustainable practices. We created the first consumer choice platform. It's an app that allows users to find and compare businesses based on their sustainability. So you can kind of think of it like a green Yelp. And it's actually for free on the App Store. You can get it right now, called Find Green. You'll find that there's a spatial platform where you can find all the businesses around you. You can compare how eco-friendly they are based on the number of green leaves they have, and you can even do a survey that drives the ratings. Those ratings are then collected and sent back to the businesses so they can see what consumers are finding about their business.
So for activists like myself looking to engage in more than just personal change, why is this app so satisfying?
I think it really comes down to the collective voice piece. I think a lot of us feel very alone in our preferences. We each are doing things like using our reusable cups. We shop with reusable bags and so forth. And it really struck me the other, actually it was a couple of years ago. I was in line at a big retail store, and I had my little reusable bag for the items I was going to buy, and I looked up at the cash register and saw the people in front of me, and they all were getting their items bagged in plastic bags. And it just struck me that my individual action isn't enough, and we need to change everybody's behavior, or the real solution is getting the business to change its practices so that they're giving out reusable bags or paper bags.
Mm-hmm. What concepts can you see coming from an application like this? Are there innovations or ideas that might grow from consumer pressure, like you were talking about? For example, more veggie meals, reusables, new business practices?
Yes, so that's exactly what we hope to drive business towards, is more sustainable practices, so that like we see here at this cafe, using reusable cups, using reusable utensils, providing more vegetarian options, as well as going beyond. There's lots of new innovations thanks to technology. One of my favorites is the idea of shared systems. So like shared cars and bike share. Those are ways of reducing our greenhouse gas emissions. Instead of everybody owning their own car, we have shared systems. We're also looking at that in the food industry towards having reusable to-go containers with a return sanitized system.
Mm-hmm.
So those are all the kinds of cool innovations we hope to promote through the app.
And having those sort of shared systems seems like it would be cheaper, despite many people's arguments that new waste management practices might be more expensive and other things relating to environmentally sustainable options. So how would you address that argument that moving away from existing systems to more eco-friendly options can sometimes be too costly?
Right. Yes, I don't really understand that argument because, at least in my life and what I've seen, is it's actually a lot more affordable to be eco-friendly. Like in our home, when I switched, I was carnivore and I switched to being a vegetarian. It reduced our grocery bill significantly. And also, when I sold my car and now we use public transportation, bike a lot, walk, do car share. But we went from spending about $600 a month when you consider car payments, and insurance, and gas, and so forth, to more like around 100 or maybe 150 when you add up the taxis and other costs. So in my experience, it's actually a great cost savings to be eco-friendly. And since COVID, I've been talking with a lot of restaurants, like the one I'm at here, about why have they returned to reusable plates and dishes at their business, because they have a choice. They can do disposable or they can do reusable. And most of them have said, well, it's just that's how we operate, but also it's a lot more affordable.
Exactly. And I can see how it really just adds up for the long term and has the potential to save businesses a lot of money. Can you give me some examples of some very simple things businesses can do to earn a leaf on your app and how customers can help support zero waste efforts that businesses put in place?
Right. Well, the easiest is to look at the business operations holistically in terms of what is the waste footprint, how to minimize that, providing recycling, looking at the food waste, composting, trying to reduce food waste in the beginning, but then composting what's left, providing a lot of vegetarian options, vegan options, all of these measures. I think for the consumer, first of all, patronizing businesses that are eco-friendly is a big step. And then speaking up and telling the managers and the staff, hey, I really love these eco-friendly practices you're doing, that you're using paper straws, or you reopened with reusable dishware. They need to be encouraged to continue these practices.
Exactly. And we're the people who can really influence businesses because we're the people that are buying from them. What
Yes.
role do you think the government has on these efforts, and how can they help influence businesses?
Well, the government has a tremendous role to play because they ultimately have the power of setting regulations as well as providing incentives. And I think incentives are extremely important. For example, they can provide free pickup service for recycling. That would certainly motivate a lot of businesses to do recycling as well as for composting. But they could also regulate. They can also make it a requirement.
Mm-hmm. What has the effect of COVID been on restaurant sustainability in general?
Well, it's been really fascinating. On the downside, we certainly have seen a tremendous increase in single-use plastic disposables. On the positive, I think COVID has been a real awakening to the world to see that we can change our practices as a society. I mean, the entire world basically went into lockdown within 24 to 72 hours, which is just phenomenal. And that shows that we can make change. Second is, we see that businesses are having to completely rethink their operations because of COVID. Their supply chain, what they're producing, how they're transporting it, everything is under a complete rethink. And so this is really an opportunity to infuse more sustainable practices into business operations.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Leah, what are your short and long-term goals for FindGreen?
Great. Well, so right now we have about 360 users. We've done over 2,600 surveys, and that's of about a third of all the coffee shops and cafes in Washington, D.C. But we want to expand to all sorts of other sectors, hotels, dry cleaners, retail, and so forth. We also want to expand out of DC and eventually to the entire world. And perhaps most impactful, we want to get the ratings that we have into existing consumer large platforms like Yelp, like Google Maps, and so forth. And by doing so, we will basically, we think of is create a green lens on the internet where consumers can go in and find the eco-friendly choices that they can then support as they try to make their lives more sustainable.
I love it. Green vision.
Exactly.
How can people in the DC metro area and the county, like teens myself, get involved and help assist in the development and adoption of your program?
Well, thank you, Annabelle. That's a great question. Of course, we would love for you to all download the app and start using it as you're making your choices about which cafes and coffee shops to patronize. And also you can follow us on Twitter and Facebook. It's FindGreen app. And a more active role people can play is becoming a champion for FindGreen. There's lots of leadership opportunities, and we especially welcome teens to be part of this, where you could adopt a neighborhood and become responsible for checking out and doing surveys of the businesses and promoting eco-friendly businesses through our social media. So if you're interested, please contact me. It's Leah Carr at gmail.com. And I'd love to talk with you more. Thank you.
Well, I just downloaded the app and I'm really excited to use it and to make some
Great.
more informed decisions when it comes to going to restaurants and ordering takeout and things like that. And I highly suggest that other teens do the same and find ways to get more involved in these efforts, really for this movement for making restaurants more sustainable, because that's definitely something we need to see both in DC and around the country and around the world too. So thank you so much, Leah Carr from FindGreen.
Thank you, and have a better, greener day.
Too. And thank you everyone for watching.